Hey guys, this is a brief interview I did at Creature Feature Weekend. It was part of the Labine Brothers Q&A. I really am proud with how this episode turned out. I hope y'all enjoy it too. Hello, everybody. You are the loyal Labine fiends that came out for this Q&A session.
Or you just wanted some air conditioning.
That is also an option. Valid options either way.
Popcorn, air conditioning, why not?
So I am Matt Kelly from the Horror Movie Night podcast, and I am very excited to be moderating the Labine brother panel here as a fan of both of these men's work. So I will let them introduce themselves to all of y'all, and then we were going to just dive into a conversation about careers.
Cool. I'm Tyler Labine.
I'm Kyle Labine, but actually my name is Jonathan, so people call me Johnny. Okay, should we start rapping?
So I want to start with Kyle because I witnessed truly a magical moment yesterday when Kyle Kanye Wested Tom Savini in the middle of a panel and straight up said, "I'm going to let you finish, Tom," and then proceeded to hijack a Friday the 13th versus Halloween panel to express that Freddy is better than both of them before you just left without saying goodbye to anyone.
I waved. No, I wasn't trying to be rude. I don't think Kanye West is either. But no, I came to the panel. I was asked if I wanted to come, and I was stepping away from the booth. And I came, and I sat there for about 5 minutes. Well, Tom Savini has some wonderful things to say, but
He was besmirching Freddy.
I wasn't coming here to be a spectator at the Tom Savini panel. So, he had some cool things to say, and then I just kind of said, "Hey, I'm going to speak up for a second and kind of say a few things that I came here to say," and then it kind of, went back into the Tom Savini panel, and I was like, "It's been a pleasure." So, I had some stuff to do. I go back and try to sign autographs for people. So,
Yeah. I think you started your question with, "I don't think I'm supposed to be here, but."
yeah, maybe. So yeah, and I do maintain that. I don't know about better. I mean, I think he's scarier. I think he's the more efficient killing machine.
And you have I think are you the only actor who's faced off against Freddy, Jason, and Michael Myers? I feel like if you're not, it's a very small number.
I feel like once upon a time I was the only person. I feel like maybe there's one other person that's gone into that group. But yeah, as far as people who've been in the Friday the 13th, Nightmare on the Elm Street, and the Halloween. I think I might be the only one. Yeah.
There you go. And Tyler, I bumped into you on the elevator yesterday, and I swear I didn't ask to be on the same floor as you, but I immediately told you that I have been a fan of yours since I randomly stumbled upon a movie called Evil Alien Conquerors at the video store.
Yeah.
And discovered Krogar.
Croker. Like Roker, like Al
Yes.
Roker. Yeah. Quick show of hands. Anybody else?
Yeah,
seen
has
that
anyone
movie in
ever
here?
even heard of this movie that I'm
Evil
talking
Alien
about? Is
Conquerors?
it just the three people on the
Yeah, I didn't
stage?
think so. That's how odd that was for me. I was like, you what? You
I feel like we need a reenactment of what Kroger
Yeah, can you
does.
show them what Kroger does? I'm sure your voice is...
Do you want me to do your
Do
voice?
you
or
guys
don't
care
hear
to see that?
Yeah, let's do this.
All right, so here's the setup, all right? My character's a creature named Croker, who is a 100-foot tall giant on the planet of Kabij. And he eats people's heads. Like, if you do anything wrong on the planet of Kabij, you are brought to Croker, and he just eats your head.
It's a comedy.
It's a comedy, by the way. It's Chris Matheson who wrote the Bill and Ted movies.
Yep.
And it's me and Dietrich Bader and Chris Parnell. And in a weird twist of fate, Tori Spelling. I don't know how that happened. Anyway, my character gets sent down to Earth after Mayek and Doug fail to behead the entire human race in 3 days. And my job is to kill them and bring their bodies back to Kabij. But when I get sent to Earth, I get shrunk down to 6 feet tall, but my character is in full denial and has no idea that he's not a giant anymore. So he walks around like this.
Don't mess up your vocal. Do you want me to do the sounds?
No, he walks around like this. When he first comes down to Earth, he lands, and he's like, oh, he's so huge. And he stands up, and then he goes to walk, and there's no rumbling ground, so he's very confused. So he went like this. I just start making my own sound effects, and then every time I speak in the movie, I yell at the top of my fucking lungs. Sorry, there's kids in here. I yell at the top. He's like, I don't care. I didn't let him in. I yell at the top of my lungs, which sounds a little bit like, "Ah!" Yeah. I am Kroger. I am 100 feet tall. Anyway,
And then he becomes a salesperson somehow. It's a very weird movie,
and
but
I kill
it's
people, and then I end up becoming a
like a pitch man on television.
like the Home Shopping Network.
Yeah, it's a strange movie, but I highly recommend it. But I'm
Irreparable vocal cord damage. Was the
Yeah,
end
that's
result.
another thing. I damaged my vocal cords so bad that they never recovered. Yeah.
But I
don't-
want to see
don't
show of
watch it, don't
hands. So are we here? Are we here because we're a fan of the multiple times you played a stoner on the X Files? Like, let's see hands for that. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
All right.
yeah.
How about
Nice.
the fuck 'em chuck 'em football in
That's not
Zack
it.
and Miri?
Fuck 'em, chuck 'em football.
Yeah, a little bit of that.
Huck it.
We got
Huck
some
it, chuck
hardcore
it.
Reaper fans out here. That was a big one for me. The most underrated show that was ever put on Hulu, Deadbeat. We got some fans of that up
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
Or is it Tucker and Dale? Which side
Or
note?
is it Freddy versus Jason?
Freddy versus Jason. So side note, when I was writing down all of the movies that I'm like, I need to mention these, I got distracted, and at one point I wrote down Tucker and Dale make a porno, and I was like,
Oh,
there,
man.
there's the sequel we need.
Yeah, I actually really like that for a lot of reasons. But we, when we were making the movie, it was immediately apparent. We were like, oh shit, we could franchise this, and we came up with Tucker and Dale go to Yale, which is just funny, just funny to say. Tucker versus Dale. That one could be the final installment. Tucker and Dale go to jail. That's a little Ernest goes to jail, but homage.
Tucker and Dale
I mean,
learn
it's
to read
top-notch
Braille.
Ernest,
Yeah.
at least.
Fuck it and bail.
Tucker and Dale, the Holy Grail.
Tucker and Dale, the search for the Holy Grail. Oh my God. And then we actually wrote the earliest iterations of a sequel that we wrote was like Tucker and Dale in like the hills have eyes kind of scenario. But really, we just think they're a bunch of people who need help. And we want to help, but they're trying to murder us, and we have no idea they're trying to eat us. And yeah, it was pretty funny.
Also, I've done a really bad job of mentioning there is a microphone up in the middle there. If anyone has questions, any cues they want to you can line
Q&A.
up. But in the meantime,
Megan,
I-
did I see
Megan,
your
would you
hand
like
up?
to
Did I
ask
see your
a
hand
few
up?
questions?
I do have a question for you. When you were showing up to the set of Zack and Mary Make a Porno, at any
Yeah.
point did you pull Kevin aside and say, hey, if Jason's not available, my brother did a great job of being him in a horror movie a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I pitched him hard.
I do want to know how that all came to be, because I know they made a joke about that even in the documentaries that they've made, but like, was that in the script to kind of go for that, or was that like a conscious decision of yours, or?
Yeah, they wrote, we can't call this character Jason Mewes, but just Jason Mewes. That was actually the character's name when they were developing it for the first about 6 iterations. No, I think that, I don't really think there are similarities between the two characters. We just kind of look a little bit alike.
Yeah.
And
I mean, it's
we're both,
mostly that.
both potheads in our respective kind of characters. And all the times I said snoochy doochies. I probably, in retrospect, I should have laid off the snoochy doochies. That, I mean, I was saying like
coattaily.
doochie poochies, but I think it was
coattaily.
too derivative for sure.
No, I do think that, I think you're right. There's like, it's a stoner, they kind of look similar, they have long hair. Like, no one's saying like, Jason Mewes is ripping off the guy from Dazed and Confused. Like, they also look and talk similarly, so bullshit, I say.
And I'll take the compliment.
I have the
He's a
same
sexy
shirt
man.
as that kid right there.
You
have the
Adidas
same
one?
shirt?
Yeah, the Adidas shirt. Yeah.
You're also rocking some sweet kicks, both of you up here.
Thank you. I know.
You're like a regular Run DMC up here.
We're sponsored by Adidas.
I know, too many laces though. But I brought these thinking like, oh man, I'm really gonna wow Kyle.
Yeah.
Because he has cool shoes all the time, and then he shows up with those, man.
They're just white, man. I don't think
Yeah,
they're as
but
cool
they're
as
like-
you.
they're-
I think you're hung up on this. Your shoes are cooler. Like, can we get a show of hands whose shoes are cooler? Those ones or these ones?
All right, so Tyler.
It's okay. You won't hurt our feelings, except for mine.
All right, I'm seeing, okay, a couple. And Kyle?
Kyle.
Did you raise your hand for both?
Megan.
You're such a cheater.
Biased.
I
Oh,
think
did
you
raise
won.
them?
I think yellow won on this
I
one,
think
though.
yellow one. Yeah, there we go. How he
See?
feels okay about his shoes.
You're right though. Too many laces.
Love.
I had a boss at my last job tell me the secret of success is never having to tie your laces again. So I have gone all slip-on shoes ever since.
So
I hate
one thing I'm going to
laces.
teach everyone here this evening, you're going to go home. It's not evening yet, but it feels like evening because you're in a movie theater. You can double bow your laces and pull them apart with one fell swoop. Don't think that it's this is a permanent situation if you tie your shoes into a double bow. You're not going to have to tie your shoes. You just do one knot, two bows. Anytime you want, one swift motion, it's done. It's not common enough knowledge, and I want you to know.
Hey, consider your lives enriched.
Yeah.
Okay?
Was this what you signed up for when you came to the
Yeah.
Labine Brothers panel?
I also have the cure for hiccups.
Well, I mean, now you have to share that also.
Oh, I don't want to say one thing about hiccups. I have never had the hiccups. I get 2 maximum, and that's it.
Well, those are hiccups.
Yeah, but I've never had like the oh god, I can't get rid of my hiccups. Yet
Right.
I've done that in so many roles of mine, but I have never had the hiccups.
I once had hiccups so badly that a friend of mine ended up clotheslining me over a highway meridian as we were walking to and from a camping ground. And it shocked me so much that it cured my hiccups, and I thanked him, even though I had a big scratch on my face and everything. So quickly, the cure for hiccups.
So it wasn't that.
You have to get a friend to clothesline you over a meridian.
Yeah, anytime you
You're
have hiccups,
welcome.
find a meridion by a highway
Yeah,
and have a friend
exactly.
closelining
And
you.
if you can't
What's
find
the
a
speed
friend,
limit?
come
The
find
speed
one of
limit was
us.
45. Sorry, that's got to be 55 plus. No, the cure for hiccups is this: you have to exhale all of the breath in your body, and then actively all of it, and then actively choose not to breathe back in for as long as you humanly can. Your body's going to want you to breathe back in. You tell your body, no, we don't want these hiccups anymore. And if you do that to the point where you feel like you're kind of going to die, and then you go, you won't have hiccups anymore.
So just asphyxiate yourself.
Yeah,
that's all.
I'm looking forward to the
just
news
die and
report.
then you won't
Die,
have hiccups anymore.
get someone
Yeah.
to, bring you back to life.
Dozens
No more
die
hiccups.
at the Creature Feature weekend following Kyle Labine's
Labine's
advice on pickups.
Kyle made me do it. This Kyle guy, God.
Yeah, this quarter-filled auditorium.
Yeah,
just
definitely getting stopped back at the
destroyed
border. You're
themselves.
actually wanted for involuntary manslaughter.
All right, so
Semi-voluntary.
let's. How did you guys intend to become acting brothers? Like, was this always just a shared goal, or did one say, "Hey, if he can do it"?
That made it sound like we're like interim brothers. Like we're just acting brothers right
Yes.
now. We're not. The real brothers are going to show up later. We're acting.
Yeah.
We're the acting Labines.
Until this whole lawsuit gets settled, we're acting brothers.
Yeah, yeah.
He's just bringing
The
you
real
down
Kyle
with him.
could not be make himself available. That's an interesting question. We, in some ways, yes, we grew up with a dad who was like kind of like a tech slut, and loved like had to have the microwave, had to have like the like this is the '80s, right? So like anything that came out, he was like Atari. We have to have an Atari, and him and our uncle Bill had like battles between like what was better, VHS and Beta, and so when a home video camera became a thing, my dad was like, yes, we're getting that, and we had this giant Kyocera like VHS. You put a tape in the side and like slap it in, and we had this big video camera, and we started making franchise films together.
Yeah, our oldest brother, Cameron, who's 2 years older than Tyler, 7 years older than me, he actually went on to make several films that he wrote and directed, and now he writes for Ubisoft, the video game company. So anyway, he was always more inclined to kind of be the creator and behind the camera type. So he would be the director and the writer and the
editor and the ego. The
the
producer,
old- the
yeah.
old- he was
true.
He was the oldest brother of the movie.
Sorry, Megan, did you have something to say?
Did I see a hand up right over here?
Megan, did you want to add something to that?
Silk dress that's keeping you cool right here.
Yeah.
Was that-
Probably actually pretty cold now in here. Yeah. So we made a bunch of stuff together, and we had like one big franchise called the Adventures of Chung, right?
Yeah.
And it was wildly offensive. It was the 80s. It was
Yeah,
the 80s.
You looked
It was
at me
the
like, should I
80s.
say the name of this, or is that
Yeah, like-
are we gonna get canceled?
The
I was
Adventures
very
of
curious what the
Chuck.
name of this was because you did give a very quick is this okay
Yeah.
to say?
Yeah, I saw the twinkle in his eye, and he was like, "Do it."
We were 9. Please don't cancel us for something we did when we were like 5, 6, 7, 8 years
It was
old.
the 80s. It was the 80s. It was the 80s. That's all you have to say. It was the 80s.
You saw
It
a
was the 80s,
twinkle
man.
in your eye. I saw Kyle saying, oh, it's your career.
Do it, man.
I already got canceled, bro. It's up to you.
So we made these movies where we like it was bad lip dub. You know what I mean? Like every kid thought that was awesome in the 80s, and so it was like our characters were like. Our brother was like, "Oh, I'm gonna get you, and you're out of your mind." And we were like, "Blah, blah, 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 blah." And we thought it was hilarious. And our parents were like, "Yeah, do you guys?" When we did it a lot, we like had friends in the neighborhood who would make movies, and we were coming up with like little effects and things we would do. And then either our mom, probably not our dad, she was like, "Do you guys want to get an agent in Toronto?" We grew up in Ontario, in a suburb of Toronto, and we were like, "What the fuck is an agent?" And like we have to go like get dressed up and go downtown. And I think we were all kind of not thrilled. And we went to a meeting at a place called Just for Kids in Toronto. Don't look it up. Don't look it up. Don't look it up. And then we had an agent, and our parents were like, "Great, you can make money for college." It was never an intent. We were never intending to do it as a living. My dad was like, "You can make money for school, and then you're going to go to school and you're going to get a real job."
He wanted us all to be marine biologists because that's what he wanted to do.
Yeah, zero of us did that. But yeah, so we like choosing to be acting brothers. Like we kind of did. We were like we thought at that young age we were like, "Oh, this is the greatest thing ever, making movies together." So yeah, we did kind of choose it, but I don't think any of us thought it was going to be a career. You know? Yeah.
I just wanted to be an actor. I tried to separate myself from the whole brother thing. That was harder to ditch.
Yeah. That one stuck.
Yeah, there's still time. But again, just a reminder, mic up there, Q&As. We're going to keep talking.
Did I see one over here?
Megan, did you get your hand up? Megan,
Right,
did you want to ask a question?
7th seat in, just over here. No?
Yeah, you down here. What's her name?
Megan. I
Megan.
think,
Megan,
yeah,
do you have a
Megan.
question?
It's not Megan. It's like
It's May.
it's May again. It's May again. I have a question.
All right.
Does Barry Manilow know that you raid his wardrobe? That's a
I have
Breakfast Club
question.
reference,
Great
everybody.
line. I have a question for Megan, actually. I don't actually.
Megan,
have a
you want to come
question.
up here? Yeah. Get up on the mic up there. That's Kyle's girlfriend, by the way, guys. Just so you know, we're not just picking on somebody named Megan.
Well, we're just
we
picking-
are
we're just
technically
picking on my girl.
someone named Megan.
I don't actually have a question.
I feel like asking your girlfriend on a stage, hey, can you come up here? I have a question, is setting a very bad precedent if you're not following through with anything else.
No, I know.
It's a bad setup for a bit.
The way we do one thing is the way we do all things. Crickets.
Tony Robbins.
I literally heard a cricket in the building somewhere. Yeah, it's just some motivational speaking. You know, I do that too.
So I do want to talk a little bit about Reaper, because I think that it was a phenomenal show that really is just painfully underserved. I don't even think you can really find it streaming anywhere right now. I have
No.
the DVDs, but like,
Yeah.
it was. I always hoped that there would be at least a movie, because it kind of ended a little. It's pretty open ended as it concluded.
We didn't know we were not in our minds getting canceled. You know, there was a writer's strike. I don't know if any of you remember that, but like a lot of shows went by the wayside because of that strike. So we had season 2. We were critically acclaimed. I wouldn't say we were a hit though. Like audiences
No.
hadn't really caught up to it, but the critics were like, "This is the show." And maybe the only time in my life that's happened. and then did someone say "aw"?
Yeah.
Aw. I know, poor me. But the thing I kind of love about that, what you just said about how not streaming, is like that was such a golden era of like TV DVDs. Remember how exciting that was to go and like buy like
Oh,
Sex in the City?
I still do. Like,
Yeah.
So there's a thing that I'm very concerned about in this day and age, where it's like, you know, we're seeing the news reports that like Netflix's stock is not exactly doing great.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what happens if Netflix decides to shutter its doors? Like, do all of these shows that never got released on physical media just vanish like it was a fire in the 1930s studio? Like, there's a lot of stuff where I'm like, you need that physical media. I miss
Yeah.
the seasons of DVDs with the commentaries and
Yeah.
like getting the Simpsons DVDs where they did a commentary for every episode of the show.
Family Guy. The whole reason Family Guy is even a show
is because of the DVD
is because
sales.
of the DVD sales. So like, or Chappelle Show. The
Yeah.
reason why Dave Chappelle became a massive superstar is because of the DVD sales of the Chappelle Show. But they're probably in here. Someone brought me a Reaper DVD to sign today, and I touched it. I opened it and I was like, oh my God, there was like DVDs in it.
Yeah.
And it was like, it smelled like a certain era, you know?
Well, Reaper even had that cool like slide case on the one.
That's right. On season 2, I think.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Anyway, I'm babbling. But I do love that show kind of can't be found anywhere because like the real diehards have the DVD, and I know who they are because they always identify themselves. But yeah, it would be neat if it was on some platform. Like if Shudder bought it. Oh, you know what happened? FearNet
or whatever it was.
FearNet bought it, and we did a reunion. We did a Reaper reunion, and then another little small, lesser known fact is that the women who created that show, Tara Butters and Michelle Fazekas, they wrote a show called Kevin Probably Saves the World with Jason Ritter. And they brought Sock and Sam onto that show 10 years later when we were like living in a bunker selling old carnival equipment. And and they brought us back on the show. And it was really fun. It was fun to like 10 years later be back in the skin of Sock.
I kind of love when creators do that. I know that Brian Fuller did something sort of like that when he did Dead Like Me. And then when he did Hannibal, he brought the actress from Dead Like Me, but her storyline was like a girl who thinks she's the Grim Reaper and keeps killing people.
Right.
And it was like this weird thing where like,
That's cool, man.
I'm like, wait a second. So is he trying to say that Dead Like Me was all in her head for 2 seasons? Because that's wild.
Yeah, it's very meta.
Yes. And then Deadbeat, I'm pretty sure, was that the first Hulu original show, or it was among the first?
No, there was oh God, what was it called? There was like a terrible Western themed sketch comedy show called like Roundup or like Round Down or
Yeah. Hulu had a rough start at the beginning with the original
and then there
shows.
was that cartoon series that Seth Meyer created called The Awesomes,
Yes, I do remember that vaguely.
and I think that might be it.
Yeah, you were very early on in there, and that was the
Yeah.
first one I watched of their original shows, and was like, well, because I saw that it was you. I'm like, it's Sock.
Oh, man.
Like I got
Yeah.
so excited, and that show was brilliant. It's
I really
Stoner
love that show.
Ghostbusters. Like
Yeah,
it's great.
Yeah, I love that show. And season 2, it was one thing that I'll mention is that being used as like the face of Hulu in the beginning, just to let people know that they were making original programming, was a trip. It was a tiny show. Brad Pitt produced it. I don't know if people know that. So Plan B produced it, and like I got to meet Brad a couple times, and it was really cool. But other than that, it was really like a blip of a show. And then when they decided to put it out, they literally used that billboard, the Ghost Balloon of Me, and they put it everywhere. It was on the side of like skyscrapers and all over Times Square and buses and subways and I was in Canada shooting a movie with our brother, and I had no idea, but for like a month and a half, apparently you couldn't get away from my face, and people were sending me pictures of like me on like Hollywood and Vine, like where normally it's like Beyonce, you know, and there's just a picture of me holding a balloon. I was like, oh my God, I made it.
Think
and
about
then,
the
and then
poor
all the
guy.
billboards came down, and that was it.
There was some guy in New York who every day he looked at the billboard waiting for Beyonce to brighten his day, and then for a
he's
month
like,
he was
"Oh,
looking at
this guy.
this fucking deadbeat.
then
I'm
he-
not watching
Yeah.
this.
Then he was like, maybe I'll check it out.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Yeah.
Well, you also, I mean, Danny DeVito's daughter's in it, and she is, talk about like an underutilized talent. She's so good in
know,
that show,
I
and
know.
you see her in like nothing really anymore.
Yeah, and we had Danny on the show too. Lucy has a new cartoon created by Dan Harmon called Little Demon, and it's really funny.
Nice.
So she's not in nothing, but you're right. She really, like, even before that show, she hadn't done much. I think she showed up on Sunny like once or twice.
So I mean, she was just so, like, she went from not really being in anything to kind of like a third main character of a show and crushed it.
Yeah, she was great. We had really great time doing that show, and we had a lot of chemistry, and yeah, it was good. It was
There you
fun.
go. Yeah, see, we got in the actor's studio. Wait, there's someone at a microphone. Let's get
What?
to a cue.
Whoa,
for
Megan?
We got a cue for y'all to A.
It's not Megan.
Oh, all right. Well,
Sorry.
you go ahead. Yeah.
Sorry, she can come up next.
Megan, is that cool with you? You go next? Okay.
So in Tucker and Dale It's like really funny, but it's also legitimately gory. How hard was it to keep that balance from it going either too comedic or too horror?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think one of the main challenges going into that movie. Sorry, these lights are killing me.
Yeah.
Really the movie is one joke, right? Like it's really one joke. And when I read the script initially, I was like, "Oh, that's a funny joke," but like, how do you keep that up? Like, how do you keep that joke up? And so when Alan and I were shooting the movie, we were constantly trying to like, sort of like, go home after work and write some stuff and figure out how to like kind of, I don't know, like manipulate the script a little bit more to make it sustainable. But then it didn't matter what we were doing. When we saw the movie cut together and how much blood there was, that created the balance. Like it did it, you know what I mean? Like we were just shooting a comedy and you read on a page like guy goes into a wood chipper and you're like, oh, that's funny. Guy goes into a wood chipper. But then you forget like there's copious amounts of blood that come out when a guy goes into a wood chipper. Yeah. You know, that's not written in the script, so we didn't see it. A lot of it was effects. So Shalane was there, and she got doused in blood on another day. Like I wasn't even there. So when we were shooting the movie, Alan and I were like, "We're making a comedy. Like let's just be funny," and we did that. I think we also had to keep a lot of fear alive, you know. But the reason the fear is funny is because we played it real. You know, we played it for. Right. Alan is a Juilliard alum. I don't know if you know that. I'm not. So it was sort of that. That was the idea, was that we were making a comedy. We were going to play everything for like real grounded laughs and everything. But then when it was cut together and we saw all the gore and the stuff, that's what made the movie. That's what rounded it out and turned it into the thing that I think people love. It's that genuine nailing on they hit the nail on the head with the combo of horror comedy, because we didn't know that we were making that movie. Eli did. Eli, the director, knew very much so we were making that movie, and he kind of kept it from us, you know? So I think that's what really worked about it.
Has he gone on to do much stuff?
Yeah, he did a movie called Little Evil, that I'm also in, with Adam Scott and, oh my God, why am I forgetting her name?
Yeah, I'm blanking on her name too. Netflix original. It was a really good
from
movie.
Lost and from Ant-Man movies.
Evangeline Lilly?
Evangeline Lilly, yeah. Yeah, he did that, and then he did the Zombieland pilot for Amazon. Remember when people used to vote on what Amazon shows got made?
That was wild. I forgot that was a thing that they used to do.
So
they just drop like 6 pilots and be like, I don't know, what are we funding?
Yeah, what do the
Sound
people
off.
want? The people don't always know what they want. That's a fact. But anyway, yeah.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
He also made me realize
yelled
that
at you.
Thank you. I took a poll
Sit
of the
down now.
room of what they're here for, got a unanimous vote for Tucker and Dale, and then proceeded to talk about Reaper and Deadbeat for 15 minutes, which I think is top-notch moderating on my end. Next question up there.
Hi.
You're killing it. Oh, you.
Yeah.
Hi. I kissed your baby earlier.
You did kiss my baby.
Yeah.
All right, got a question for you.
For me?
Yes.
'Kay.
What was your favorite part of filming Tucker and Dale?
I think it's funny. The experience of shooting the movie, if I'm being totally honest, was not great. There was a lot of blood, like I said, but there was a lot of confusion. It was a really low budget movie. We had 17 days to shoot it, which was insane. We had producers that were crazy people that had no idea what we were making, which we didn't either, apparently. And they were just cutting shit left, right, and center. Like there was a big chase scene at the end with me in the truck with Jangers, and then we had to just like shorten it. Like I drive into a tree immediately. And so there was a lot of fighting, and there was a lot of like, Alan Tudyk is one of my closest friends, and I love him to death. But he's an angry guy. He can be very angry, and there was a lot of disagreement, and there was a lot of like putting out fires, and there was a lot of bee sting placement arguments, and like, you know, it was complicated. It was a complicated movie. Even at one point, we realized that after he gets his bowling fingers cut off, they switched the hand between which hand had the fingers cut off 3 times in the movie. And we had to go back and like reshoot because we shot days with him having the bandages on the wrong hand. So there was like, you know, it was insane. So my favorite part of the movie, making the movie, was the drinking, I think. It was the drinking at the end of the day with Alan. And then, honestly, the best day on set was when we blew up the cabin. I don't know if any of you have been around a giant explosion before,
Yeah, every day.
intentionally. Alan and I just laid on the ground within like safe distance. We had drinks, and we just laid there and we just watched them blow this cabin up, and the percussive feeling and the heat and everything. It was just like, it was really exciting. And then the friendship that was born out of it with Eli and Alan really meant the world to me. So, yeah.
Yeah, low budget filmmaking is not always what everyone wants to make it out to be.
I'll tell you a fun story about making the movie that wasn't necessarily like fun at the time, but it's crazy. When I'm going into the lake, when Dale's going into the lake, when Allison falls in and he goes in to get her, that was February in Calgary, in a lake that was frozen that morning, thawed out by the evening. Barely. So when we got on the lake, we had to crack through thin layers of ice just to get the boat in the lake. It wasn't even a lake, it was like a little gully in the woods. So we went into that, and initially I had on like a dry suit and a wetsuit, but it looked way too bulky and it looked totally fake. So Eli was like, "Can we just go down to like a thin wetsuit and you have on your flannel and you go in?" And I was like, yeah, whatever. And it was like the middle of the night, and I went in, and when I hit the water, it was like razor blades in my face. I was just like, "Oh, God." And I got out as fast as I could. And then he was like, "Can we do it again?" And they had brought this little tiny blow-up hot tub that I could sit in between takes. And I would sit in this little hot tub. It was not hot. It was like tepid. It was a tepid tub. And, and I went in again. And he was like, "We had a technical problem. Can we go in again?" And I ended up going in 6 times. And on the sixth time that I went in, and every time they only had 2 shirts and 2 pairs of overalls. So they were frantically drying the one that I was just in for the next take. So I'd get them, and they were still soaking wet. They just looked a little drier. And I would put those on over my wetsuit. And I was just like, "Oh, God," it's like 3 a.m. And I went in for the final take. Not that we knew it was the final take. And I jumped in, and it was like a silt, like clay bottom lake. So I was trudging up the shore from water about here, and I was like, "Oh man, I'm really sinking into the clay. Like I can't walk." And I realized that it wasn't that. I was hypothermic. I had no feeling in my legs or my arms anymore, and I just fell into the water. And they had to come in and pull me out of the water and put me in the tub. And yeah, it felt like my heart was just like, bah, 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 bah. And then it just went really slow and quiet, and it was really weird. Anyway.
That's horrifying.
Yeah, filmmaking, everybody.
Yeah,
Woo,
woo.
Tucker and Dale.
It's a real, like, just a couple steps away from, like, Bela Lugosi and Ed Wood just being like, "Fuck you, you get it."
Yeah. I almost died. I wrote that on someone's autograph thing today. I almost died.
I almost signed. You should just sign everything like that. Mm-hmm. You got another question up there?
All right. So in Tucker and Dale, other than the wood chipper, what was your favorite death?
Mine?
For Tyler. I mean, you can answer.
You can answer. I want Kyle's answer on this, actually.
I actually have a question for you two.
I think I like who gets hit by the thing that comes from the ceiling and comes down. Doesn't someone get?
Yeah, Philip Granger, the sheriff.
I think I like that one. I was just being a dick, but yeah.
That was hilarious. I like that one too. I think my favorite for laughs is probably when I can't remember the name of the college kid. I'm like, I think Alan says, you got to take the safety off, or that's me. And he turns the gun around and shoots himself in the face. I mean, that one, on the day when we shot it, we were like, "That's never going to work," but it was so funny. Every time he did it, his name was Adam Beauchamp, I think, the actor. He was like, "Oh," and shoots himself in the face, which is like kind of gross that we laugh at that, but it is funny. And then I think the bees running into the. That's so good, man. That whole sequence when they're like side by side and Alan's like, "What the fuck is wrong with this kid?" And he's like, "Oh my God." It's the setup and then the impact of the tree going through his body. Ooh, it's great. Yeah.
I do love how in the dark they are as to what is happening around them for so long into the movie. Like the obliviousness is so much of the
movie,
charm.
man.
Yeah.
The whole movie, yeah.
You had another one for Kyle?
Yeah, in Freddy vs. Jason, my favorite scene is when Freddy approaches you as the caterpillar.
Yeah.
So what was it like to film that scene?
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. So there was obviously no caterpillar on set. He canceled last minute. So we just had to, kind of use our imaginations on that one. So, the stuff where the caterpillar's on the ground definitely was just kind of, I think most of it, they had a couple cameras set up maybe, and I was kind of just looking off lens and just, they would have a piece of tape on something, and I was just imagining, and, obviously there was no sketch available or anything. I was just imagining a freaky fucking caterpillar and, wanting to smoke weed with that caterpillar for, whatever reason. And then when it came time to actually get into some wrestling with that aforementioned caterpillar, they did have like this weird green, I don't know where they got this thing from, if they custom made this specifically. They're like, make something that will be a green screen weird caterpillar. It just looked like this weird Martian breast with all these nipples on it or something, green. And so I had to hold that, because they couldn't have like your hands kind of, that would make it impossible for them to CGI in the caterpillar afterwards. So I had to hold on to this thing and just wrestle with it. For the better part of an hour, I probably did that type of nonsense. So it was super fun. Yeah, that's a good time. Anytime you can get paid to wrestle with a Martian boob, I recommend it.
We got another question up there?
So I have one for Kyle also. So I'm a big Supernatural fan.
Okay.
And I know you were only in one episode, but it was in the first season, obviously when it was still really dark and before it got the fandom that it got. What was it like filming that show, and did you get to meet Jared and Jensen?
No, I don't think I ever met them on that show. I got to work with Agam Darshi, who's a really talented Canadian actress and actually show creator as well. She just created her own show. I can't remember what it's called. Something about dog, urban dog, dirty dog, something like that. But I think it's on like some Canadian, independent networks and things like that.
It's very specific, Kyle. Thank you for that.
I know, yeah. And I just said, check her out. She's very talented. And it was really cool. It was, I recall it was raining pretty hard that day. And,
Because it was the Hell House episode, right? I
the
believe
Hell
you were in.
House. Yeah, that's right. The Hell House episode. Yeah. And here's my number one takeaway from working on Supernatural is it was a blast. And, the show, it was really fun to be on that. But God, did I had just gotten, I had just been told that I had landed this role that was taking me to France. And at that point, I was so broke. I had no money to get a passport. And I booked that thing, and I was like, fuck yes. I can pay for my passport, and I can go. And I was going to live in France for 6 months to do this TV series. But I'm sure I could have found someone to borrow money from, but I'm just not that type of guy. So I was like, yes, this is allowing me to pay for, like, my passport and my, visa application, which actually I got denied for. I was filming in France for, 3 months, and they were like, no, your visa application was denied. And I was like, shit, I guess we're not refilming this whole thing. I'm just going to keep working here illegally. I've kind of gotten off topic here, but that's my number one takeaway was I was like, fuck yes, I booked this thing and I can afford to, get the passport and everything. And it was lots of fun. It's very cool to be on a show that's as renowned as Supernatural for sure. Thanks for the question.
What do they do, 15, 14 seasons?
15.
That's insane.
And now they're coming out with the Winchester spinoff.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
We got a return guest
Yep,
question.
I got one for Kyle this time.
What up?
So Freddy versus Jason, were you satisfied with where you died in the movie, or would you have liked to stay alive a little longer?
I want to stay alive the whole time. I wanted to be holding both of their heads at the end. Just like, Freeberg!
Yeah, to set up the sequel.
Who had their money on Freeberg?
Freddy versus Jason versus Freeberg.
That's it.
I have a question for Kyle. I've seen the movie, and I really like it.
And then I'll genuinely answer your question, but
Oh, I thought you had answered that question.
not really. You go ahead.
Did your character, ever get referred to as bitch in that movie? Or did you get to call anybody bitch in that movie? They say bitch in that movie so much. I love it.
Yeah, I think if you
truly
watch
an
that,
overusage of the
if
word.
you watch that movie and took a shot every time the word bitch was uttered, you would be going to the hospital. I think.
It's amazing.
No, I don't think I ever got called bitch. I wouldn't, put my life on it, but I definitely, as Freddy, do some bitch calling. I call Jason a bitch.
You call him a
times.
bitch. I thought so, yeah.
I said, "Let me handle this, bitch." Referring to Jason.
Yeah.
Jason's,
That's very funny.
Yeah, actually, it was kind of debatable. I was like, "Am I calling?" I think it's Monica Keena that comes and kind of is like, "We gotta go." I think it was her. It might have been Kelly Rowland, but I think it's Monica Keena. And I kind of go, let me handle this, bitch. And I'm like, is she the bitch or is Jason the bitch? Like,
It's really a
get
question
outta
of where
here,
the
bitch.
comma
Or, like,
is in that sentence.
Am I handling the
man.
bitch, or it's like, let me handle this comma, bitch? You know, like. So we landed somewhere in between. Ronnie was non-specific. And then a genuine answer to your question is, yeah, you know, I was just jacked to make it kind of the bulk of the way through the movie, and I, you know, I thought it was a really cool death. So you know, getting a full body prosthetic made and everything, and they had one shot. They were like, we're cutting this prosthetic in half. If this doesn't go well, we have no backup. So, you know, it was very high stakes on set. Everybody was like, okay, this has to go well. So we went into the spot and freeze framed, and they're like, okay, get out of there, bring the prosthetic in. And then they had one shot that I got to watch on the monitor as they cut me in half, and blood spurted everywhere, and that's what you see.
That's
Nice.
horror,
Thanks for the
folks.
question.
Woo. So I actually was doing the Hocus Pocus reunion earlier, and someone came up and asked a really great question of the panel, so I want to ask it to you as well, which was, what would you say is your best and worst film experience throughout your career?
Ty, you want to go first?
As an actor or as a fan?
As an actor.
Okay. My best acting experience. I would probably say Deadbeat or Reaper. Reaper was like like a defining moment for me as an actor, where I was like, "Oh my God, I can get away with this." Like I remember at one point after we shot the pilot, they audience tested it. You guys know what that is, where they test it and people have like a little dial and they go, "Oh, this is funny. This isn't." And I was the highest testing character in the history of the CW at that time. And so, a lot of it was ad-lib because it was Kevin Smith that directed the pilot, and he was just like, go, dude. And so I got a letter from Dawn Ostroff, who ran the CW at that time, and she said, Tyler has permission to do whatever he wants on the show. I was like, oh, that's dangerous, man. And it became like this, I wanted to test that. I wanted to test that theory. Like, what can I get away with? And I just tried everything on that show. And that's when I realized, like, I am the type of person, and this isn't me, like, tooting my own horn, but, like, I can be disgusting, and I can be deplorable, and I can be, like, a real scumbag, and people are still like, I like that guy. So that's where I realized that I could do that. And that's like a superpower. I don't do it in real life. I mean, on camera.
Yeah.
I'm not a scumbag in real life.
But I mean, I do want to call out that like Kevin Smith is pretty infamously not a guy who likes improv in his movies.
know.
So you getting that free pass is extra cool.
Well, he realized early on that I liked doing that, and so it began, which he now does a lot. He'll shout things out from behind the camera. He's just like, hey, say this. And I didn't like that.
Yeah.
I don't like someone yelling from the darkness, like, say this. I just feel like a monkey. So I would take what he said, and then I would just like quickly run it through my filter and turn it into what I wanted it to be. And initially he was like, just say what I want you to say, man. And I was like, no. And then I was like, I can't. It feels weird. I feel like it won't come out the way you want it to because it's too like, I don't know, controlling.
He couldn't give Ben Affleck or Matt Damien the freedom.
No,
He gave you
He
the
gave me freedom. Yeah, and so I think what happened was
Those guys are hacks.
Yeah. Maybe they can't improv.
They're just
you know?
amateurs, man.
Not
They were
everyone
hacks.
who's a great actor can improv, but we developed that rapport, and then that's why he asked me to come do Zack and Miri. And Zack and Miri was literally 3 lines on the page, and he was like, just do whatever you want, man, just make it up. And that's when like Huck at Chuck at football and Ben Roethlisberger, and I need coffee, so I'm drive home, and yeah, I'll take a cold one. All these quotable lines that came from that movie were just me and him like just like making shit up.
I love
you know?
that.
So anyway,
It's one of the most quotable, memorable scenes in the entire movie.
yeah, of my career, honestly. A lot of people are that like I get people shouting that out their moving car windows at me. I got chocolate football. Like, oh, right on, man.
Nice car with the mic. I got
I got chocolate football.
multi-talented, this guy here.
I'm seeing that improv coming out.
Did you see me do my impression of Croker earlier?
Yeah, that was spot
great.
on.
Anyway, so Deadbeat and Reaper were like those moments. And Reaper, Deadbeat. Sorry, I'm so tired, guys.
Worst experience.
Deadbeat was my other best experience because I knew that was sort of, I was getting to that age where I was like, I can't do this anymore. I can't play like the dumb stoner, like funny best friend anymore. I'm getting too old, and I had started like dyeing my beard by that point a little bit, and I was like, oh man. And so I was like, this might be my last chance to do this thing that I love doing, which is like being the full tilt, like idiot boob, like doing all that stuff. So I just did it to the nth degree, and I was like, I'm gonna leave it all on the floor, you know? And I did. So I love that. And then my worst experience shooting was probably this. I was on Planet of the Apes. Yeah, it was this moment right now. You guys
Right
are all,
here.
You guys are all in a new movie of mine right now. No, I was on Planet of the Apes, and we were doing a rehearsal for a big scene. Me and James Franco and Rupert Wyatt, the director, and it was like a hot Vancouver day. Not that it gets that hot in Vancouver, but it was hot. And I was a lot bigger, and they had me in these big hospital scrubs. And I was really, really fond of going commando at that time. No underwear. And we were doing a big blocking for the crew, and Rupert had suggested that I have this like bouncy ball, and I'm throwing it at the wall while we're doing the scene. And it goes a little errant, and I go to catch it with my leg, and from the back of the seam of my crotch all the way to the front, it just went and ripped open, and there's like 50 crew members and everybody, and everything was just dangling, and I was like, oh God, and I had to like, scoop everything up, and like wardrobe came running in, and they're just
Nice
like, we're all
humble
like,
brag
oh
there.
my God. Oh, you still have to scoop up
I had to
time.
pick it up off the ground real quick.
Tuck it back into my sock.
You have to scoop up marbles too, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like I'm bragging about the size. You got to scoop anything up. I scooped it up. Scoop. And then we had to like walk like a quarter mile from the soundstage to my trailer, which was, you know, this little fucking rinky-dink, whatever. And we're just walking the whole way there, and I just was holding all my stuff, and wardrobe was just kind of like, yeah, we'll get there. I was just like walking through, and people were like, what's going on with that? I was like, it's okay, don't worry, pay no mind. And I don't think I ever went commando ever again after that. Yeah. But yeah, that was maybe my worst experience. Also funny.
Kyle?
I'll start with my worst, then go with my best, just to be different than my brother, because that's my MO. So worst, this one's kind of interesting. Nothing like super traumatic comes to mind. I mean, maybe some stuff when I was younger, working in the snow and just being cold, but I don't think that's very entertaining. The worst memory that came to mind was I had this one day. It was on a movie. Actually, Ty was in it too. It was a movie. David Bowie was kind of the big name on it.
My God.
It ended up being called Mr. Rice's Secret. I think it was originally called Exhuming Mr. Rice.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Thanks, Megan, for the claps there. She's so embarrassed. And I was like, Ty was a little bit more featured in the movie, and I had this one day where I was just like bullying the kind of this kid's got cancer, and I'm just ripping on him.
Did we
It's
both
like-
play bullies in that movie?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, oh my
yeah,
God,
yeah.
that's funny.
And so I'm just kind of ripping on him. He's like at this baseball tryout, and I'm throwing this ball back and forth, and I'm like making fun of him because he like wets the bed. And there was this one line that was, you still wet the bed and have scary, wary nightmares, something very similar to that. And I could not stop saying, do you still have wet dreams? And it was like, the first time it happened, everyone thought it was fucking hilarious, right? You still have wet dreams? And they were like, ha ha, everyone killed herself, very much so how Tyler's doing right now. And then I did it the second time, and everyone laughed, and they thought, okay, all right, let's do it for real now. And I must have said it like 6 or 7 consecutive times to the point where the director came over and he was like, it's wet the bed and have scary, wary dreams. And I was like, I'm so fucking sorry. I don't know why I can't do this. I finally got it. I think I got a fucking round of applause, a very sarcastic round of applause. And yeah, that was, my brain was like in this weird glitch. So yeah, that was pretty bad. And then it's really hard for me to pin down my best.
That was around the time you were having a lot of wet dreams, right?
Yeah. That's a Freudian slip over and over and over again. And then my best one, it's really hard to pinpoint, but I would just say that, I've been lucky enough to have a few times that I've booked stuff that's taken me overseas, and you get this experience where you're not just kind of like working with people like, okay, we work together and then you kind of go home and go your separate ways, but you're able to be in this kind of situation with these people where you live together and they're your friends. It's like work is done after a 12, 13-hour day and you're like, hey, what are we doing this weekend? And it kind of just forces you into this environment where it feels a little bit, and I don't want to say guerrilla filmmaking style, but you just feel like you're really all kind of pulling in the same direction, and you're a real community in that. So I would say those experiences. I got to do a show over in France for 6 months, and also artistically in that show, I had a lot of leeway. Actually, it's funny, Ty. I've had a couple experiences that are a bit the same, not quite the same, but both Samurai Girl and Grand Star, where they actually.
Kyle gets to go.
Yeah, Samurai Girl, they sat everyone down and they had a big chat where they were like, you can't change the lines. Like, what's written is what we want you to say. And we're not improving, we're not doing whatever. And they had this big chat with everyone. And then after they all left, they were like, except for you. You got to do your thing. And I was like, okay, thanks. So I would just say any one of those experiences where, you've been in that community, and also just the experience of living and working somewhere else was fantastic. So I would say one of those experiences.
All right, I think we can take one more question.
Megan?
Sorry, I just wanted. Yeah, oh crap, Megan, it is your turn. Yeah? No.
Did more people
Okay.
show up?
Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Hi.
I was wanting to piggyback a little off of the question you just kind of had, but for both of you both worked with a lot of really awesome people, and I just wanted to know kind of what your favorite, if you had a favorite or most memorable person that you were able to work with, and then you kind of answered Alan Tudyk, but I did want to ask.
Oh, it's not
Tyler,
Alan.
how it was to get to work with him also.
Oh yeah, Alan is fantastic. He's the funny thing about Alan is he's a fantastic actor. Where'd you go? Oh, he's just disappeared. He's a fantastic actor, but it's what you see with Alan is kind of what you get. He's really great at manipulating who he is. But Alan Tudyk is Alan Tudyk. The way he is on camera, the way he's just. I don't know if you ever met him, but you meet him and you're like, oh, holy shit, you're that guy. Anyway, it's pretty fascinating. What was the question?
Favorite person you've worked with?
Favorite person I've worked with.
I'll go.
Yeah, go.
So I've got a couple. I couldn't narrow it down to just one. Some really amazing kind of Canadian talent. When I was really young, I got to work with Colleen Dewhurst, who is this amazing, beautiful older actress. And she kind of, I was like 7. I remember at one point she forgot a line, and I gave her line as a 7-year-old to this 80-year-old, award-winning legend. I was like, your line is this, and she very calmly but very firmly looked at me and said, Kyle, don't ever give another actor their line. And I went, okay. I never forgot that. And I remember that forever. So I was able to work with Ben Kingsley on probably the goofiest movie Ben Kingsley's ever done. But just his presence was unreal. So I would say probably, and also on the same set as Colleen Dewhurst, Sarah Polley, who I really looked up to as a child actor. She was a few years older than me, and just so present and so giving as an actress. And I would say those people.
That show, by the way, is called Road to Avonlea. I don't know if you guys know it. It's like the Anna Green Gables show. And the amount of talent, like Faye Dunaway, Christopher Lloyd, Treat Williams, Graham Greene, Colleen Dewhurst, Jackie Burroughs,
yeah.
The list goes on. The people that
Kyle
came on that show.
Labine.
Ryan Gosling made an
Ryan
appearance on
Gosling
that
came
show.
on that show. I was on that show for a
It was kind
second.
of like a Canadian Little House on the Prairie-ish type
Yeah.
thing, which I just remembered. I've been trying to remember the name of that Little House on the. I kept saying the Partridge Family, and I was like, that's not it.
Little House on the Partridge Hill. I just remembered something. This is probably a private conversation for me and Kyle, so can you guys all turn around?
Yeah. They're not.
Okay. Mercedes Rule and I just worked together.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, I didn't even think of that. Kyle worked on that Ben Kingsley movie. Kyle worked with Mercedes as well.
It was like these 2 Academy Award-winning actors and this goofy Halloween magic-inspired Home Alone knockoff movie that was the first time I saw it was 8 years later in Germany. I was like, what the fuck? And it was like...
Didn't you play a guy named Dumb Dave?
Dumb Dave, yeah.
Yeah. Dumb Dave, everybody.
Who are your favorite actors you worked with?
All right, my favorite actors that I've worked with. Kyle Labine.
We have worked together a couple times.
We have, yeah. Kyle came on Reaper and was hilarious for an episode, too. I worked with a lot of people, man. I think one of my favorite moments, I didn't work with him on camera, but meeting John Lithgow. I'll just tell you the story really quick. I was in Vancouver shooting Rise of the Planet of the Apes, and we had been shooting for like a few days, and everyone was kind of getting to know each other, and I was walking past like the line of trailers going down to mine, and I walked past John Lithgow, and he's in his chair, and he's sitting just reading a newspaper, like
He's giant.
the way that Johnny Lithgow would read a newspaper. He's just out there like folding it in the weirdest kind of contrived way, and I walked by, and I was like, holy shit, that's John Lithgow. And I got about 20 paces past him, and I hear these little footsteps running after me, like, excuse me, Mr. Labine? And I turn around, and it's this assistant that popped up out of nowhere, and he's like, Mr. Lithgow is requesting your company at his chair. And I was like, oh, okay. So I turn around, we walk back 15 steps or whatever, and I'm like, hi. And he folds his paper up, puts it under his leg, and he's like, Tyler Labine? I'm like, yeah. He's like, Johnny Lithgow. And he gives me this huge handshake, and I said, oh my God, I'm so excited to meet you. Like, I'm such a fan. And he put his hand on my chest, and he went, oh, pshaw. And I said, that is such a John Lithgow thing to say. And he was like, oh, and was like, and then from that moment on, like whenever we saw each other, he was like, oh, we were like, well, touchy-feely. And anyway, John Lithgow was great. Oh, pshaw. No, who says that? Oh, pshaw. And then I got to work with Danny DeVito on Deadbeat, and he just tickled me pink, literally. He's the funniest human being I think I've ever worked with. And then
I also want to throw out Callum Keith Rennie. He was
Yeah.
an
Oh,
awesome
Callum,
person
yeah,
to work
Callum
with.
Keith
Yeah,
Rennie's
he's
fantastic.
incredible.
Well,
You guys would know
I'm
from
getting the light in the back
California
that they are cutting us short.
all right,
at
we're
this
being
point.
cut short.
So,
But one more One more is probably Fred Armisen.
all right, there we go.
There you go.
Everybody, go and check out the Labine brothers in the signing area. Go meet them, get some autographs.
We're there tomorrow,
Also-
too.
Also, go see Good Old Fashioned Orgy, which is a painfully underrated movie.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
Thanks
If you
a lot,
want to see me
guys.
fake have sex.
Yeah, and then once you spend all the money over there, if you have $10, come buy some T-shirts off of me at the Horror Movie Night table. Bye, everybody.
Everybody.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.